Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and today we're going to conclude Bumblebee month with looking at the last and possibly the biggest one. We're taking a look at the 1989 Pretender Classic Bumblebee. He would be available, as I said earlier, in 1989 and would be discontinued in 1990 to be replaced with the Action Master version. Now, there were two versions available of this toy. First being this totally complete version that you see here. And secondly, without the Pretender shell, he would be released on card in a Kmart store as a store exclusive. There's something else fancy about this one, and we're going to talk about that later in the video. Hopefully some of you eagle-eyed viewers probably noticed what we're going to talk about. But moving right along, this version of Bumblebee was done up alongside his buddies Jazz and Grimlock and their enemy Starscream, bringing them back into the line despite the fact that in the years previous, Hasbro had an issue about bringing back the same guys. But in this case, Bumblebee gets a considerable improvement over his original. As you can see there, he's just a shade taller, so that's a considerable improvement on the original. Plus, of course, this one can hold a gun. See? He even faints at the sight of his potential. Get out of here. We'll get the shell out of the way here for the time being. And let's take a look at Bumblebee himself. This is the new improved Bumblebee. And as for articulation goes, well, his head can move up and down. It's more for his transformation, but we can have him signify going yes. He has a joint at the shoulder, so it does allow for some shoulder movement, and he can rotate his arm at the shoulder all the way. And like his original version, there is a joint bit at the ankle to allow for some kicks, but that's not really the best use of it. So I guess now we'll move on to transforming Bumblebee. And he's only just he's about the same as what he was for the small vehicle. Start first by removing his gun. You straighten his arms out, and this time they just fold down instead of being pushed inward. Like that. And then next you would fold down his head. Then you'll take his legs, shift them downward, and then push them in as one solid unit. And there you have it, folks. His alternate mode continues to remain as it always has, the Volkswagen Beetle. Don't you come out here, Bug Bite. So this time he gets the added bonus that you can also mount his gun on the top, and now he has an attack mode. Which, just by looking at that, even though you can rotate it all the way around and knock it out of there in the process, that looks rather silly. There's no question about it. That just looks silly. Well, before we move on to other things, I want to show off a special one that my brother obtained through the website Transformerland. We have a Mexican variant. As you can see, it's got red headlights red wheels. Let's transform him into the robot and see what else he has. He's a bit stiff here, so please bear with me here, my friends. Well, he is a bit too stiff, so we're not going to fight with it. I don't want to break it in the process, but the arms appear to still be yellow. But he's got a red head instead of the yellow head. So, very, very interesting. It's a very interesting knockoff, to say the least. Because it doesn't have anywhere on it the indication that it was made by Hasbro. Of course, then again, neither does Bumblebee on the obvious signs. But still, rather interesting addition to the collection here, folks. So I do hope you enjoyed that. Now, without his weapon, we're going to prepare Bumblebee to be put inside his shell. To do that, you start by raising the head up, and then we pull down his legs, and then supposedly, according to the instructions, his midsection here rotates backwards. There it goes. Snap it loose and just rotate back. So it kind of looks like this. And then we'll bring the shell forward after we separate the halves of the shell. Stick him here in the upper portion of the back. Merge the halves together. And he's in his shell. Now we just add a helmet and give the shell his rifle. And of course, on the other hand, he can hold Bumblebee's little gun for some extra firepower. And then there you go. Bumblebee is disguised as a human in a red and yellow battle suit. Whatever. And like all humanoid pretenders, the only articulation is in the arms. You can rotate the arms all the way around. At least he can hold his guns properly, unlike the Action Master version that you saw earlier. Now we'll take a look at Bumblebee's loose parts. And the first thing we want to talk about is a discrepancy between the Pretender version and the carded version. And it comes down to the little tiny gun. This is Bumblebee's laser. This is the weapon that he carries. But, as you may have noticed on this carded sample, try to get it there in the light, you can see clearly that the gun does not match. But this is a still canon gun, because that is the gun that came with the Pretender form of Jazz. So, the carded forms of Jazz and Bumblebee have the opposite gun than what their Pretender forms do. I mean, we'll even show you. Jazz, can you hold Bumblebee's gun? Oh yeah, Jazz can hold it. Now, can Bumblebee hold Jazz's gun? Why, yes. Yes, he can. So, bear that in mind, folks. If you are want the carded Bumblebee, in other words, you want this one, If you want this version, then you need this gun. If you're going with the Pretender version, you need this gun. This thing is not pointed out in the Transformer guidebook by Mark Bellomo, but it is mentioned on the Transformers Wikia for both toys. So bear that in mind, my friends. Next up, for the Pretender version, we have his helmet. It's a pretty plain helmet, no real frills about it, except for the fact you got a nice little sticker here in the center. And you have the larger rifle, where the instructions just label it as rifle. Nothing really fancy about it. No real gun details or anything. It's just a large cannon of sorts. Then we got the front half of the shell. I will warn you, the face is prone to some paint wear, and some of these stickers, in most cases, are damaged from play wear. Then you got the back side of the shell, and as you may notice here, the shell's base color is this yellow, because there's some paint wear here on the red. So bear that in mind when you're looking for loose samples. Now, as you can imagine, folks, there are two different versions of his instructions, and we're going to go over both of them. We'll start with the card backer. You can see up here at the top, it shows off all four of them were available as Kmart exclusives. And get over here to the parts list, and as you can see, it has the gun that the Pretender came with, but as clearly evidenced there on the front of the package, that is not the gun it came with. And then it goes through the motions of how to transform him and how to place his stickers. And of course he's got the tech spec at the bottom, and we'll go over both tech specs in a moment because there is a difference on the tech specs. So now we'll get the paper instructions for the Pretender. As you can see here, first page, it's the same picture that you saw on the package for the loose one, and then next we get him in the shell. Looks too happy there, doesn't he? And scroll through him and his loose parts. So they have the correct weapon on this one, as it should. How to arm him. And then basically how to transform him into car mode. And then now you get into how to put him in the shell. And how to fully equip the shell. And lastly, we get to his stickers. And then at the end, we have directions on the bonus material. You'll notice there isn't anything for the rub sign, as they were phased out the year prior. Encourage you to save for robot points, despite the fact that a lot of the promotions were done by this time. And then how to read the tech specs. Now, in the case of this version of Bumblebee, there are two versions of his tech specs. We'll lay them one over the top of the other one. The main difference is, of course, naturally, the Pretender one is going to be a bit larger in size, due to it being on a box instead of on a card. The biggest other difference is the pictures. As you can see, this one has the shell in the background. This one does not. They're both listing him as an Autobot, and they give his name as Bumblebee. They both list his function as espionage, and his motto is still, the least likely can be the most dangerous. Now, the stats over here are the same for both toys. It's the bios that get different, and that's mainly due to whether or not it has the Pretender shell or not. We'll read the Kmart exclusive one first. A freewheeling, fun-loving Autobot. This formerly tiny Titan is now bigger and better than before. Forged of reinforced titanium armor and equipped with multiband radio transmitter and thermal tracking meters. Also armed with X-ray lasers and headlights that can burn through solid rock. Entire frame and chassis refortified, for added endurance and fighting power on the battlefield. Armed with laser pistol in robot mode. Now it's slightly different on the Pretender version. A freewheeling, fun-loving Autobot. Recommissioned as a Pretender, this formerly tiny Titan is now bigger and better than before. Outer shell equipped with titanium armor, sonic blaster, and turbo-thrusted rocket pack. Reinforced helmet equipped with multiband radio transmitter and thermal tracking meters. Inner robot armed with laser pistol. Car mode also equipped with X-ray lasers and headlights that can burn through solid rock. Entire frame, chassis, and outer armor refortified for added endurance and fighting power on the battlefield. So you can see the differences mainly depend on whether or not he has the shell. But the way the card backer one goes, some of the features, like the sensors that are in the helmet, supposedly are also in Bumblebee's head. Take that as you may. Now we'll take a look here at his stats, and this is how the tech specs were done in 1989. They went with a horizontal bar graph. It gives his strength as 7, his intelligence 8, his speed 4, his endurance and rank are 8, his courage is 10, his firepower is 6, and his skill is 7. So, Bumblebee has once again been improved, but let's see how it stacks up to the original to see how he's gotten better with this upgrade. By overlaying things together, his strength has had a considerable increase. His intelligence stayed the same. Speed still the same. Endurance went up. His ranks went up slightly, so he got a slight promotion in this. Courage stayed the same, which is always a thing with Bumblebee. Considerably more firepower. And his skill stayed the same, so he's gotten a few improvements where he's desperately needed some. So we'll give him that much in credit. Now we get down to, what do I think of him? The Pretender Classics have always been an interesting addition to the line, and deep down, I like them as well. All 4 of the characters, with the slight exception of Bumblebee, of course, had been off the market for at least 2 years, at least a year or two, by the time that they came out. Bumblebee being the exception, having had Goldbug available in the intermediary. In the case here for Bumblebee, Bumblebee gets the better end of it than his 3 compatriots that also became Pretenders, as this version is somewhat bigger and is capable of carrying a weapon, unlike the original toy. The addition of having a Pretender, that may be debatable amongst the fans as to whether or not you like the Pretenders, but it does give you a nice bonus figure, so it does have that kind of going for it. But of course, you also know that since they were available as a Kmart exclusive like this, you can just get the figure and still have a complete toy. So you kind of got a nice bonus with that. As terms of ranking on him, since it's still Bumblebee and it's basically an improved Bumblebee, he's still worthy of being a top tier character. by himself at least. The shell kind of drops it down to just about that line where the middle and the top tier meet. But again, that's also your opinion, your personal preference of the Pretender shell. But in all ways, all around, this is Bumblebee, and he deserves the top tier slot, hands down. And that concludes my review of the Generation 1 Autobot Legend Bumblebee. If you liked the video, thumbs up it here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and share the video with others. That helps keep this channel going. This is Sparkster1701. I thank you all for staying with us not only throughout Bumblebee Month, but for supporting me for this first year that I've been on YouTube. I look forward to continuing to entertain and inform you on the Generation 1 Transformers. Catch you all later. Hey, cameraman, I heard him say he's been on a year doing Transformers. We GoBots have been on these videos too. When are we gonna get some respect? It's time for a GoBot revolution. Hey, where'd you come from? Support GoBots! Support GoBots!